Average at Best Cornhole, back here again today with a couple different style herringbone bags from Goated Bag Co. Little uniqueness here. These bows actually have like a larger, thicker herringbone pattern, and the prime time have like the traditional herringbone pattern that you'd see on
everything,
most bags. So we figured we'd pick these two up and try to compare them a little bit for you.
Yeah, so a little bit about Goated Bag, just a smaller guy, right? Smaller company?
Yeah, they're picking up steam, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting larger. This might be their first year they got the stamp, though.
Okay. And I think with the names here, they're going targeting the goats, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it seems like it. That's prime time. I mean, that'd make you think Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson.
So that's pretty cool and unique. You don't see that a whole lot. It fits with the theme Goated, so I like that.
Yep. So now the only thing with these bows here, with this thicker herringbone, it did take a little bit longer to break those bags in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the more time you spend breaking a bag in, the more familiar you're going to get with it, and the more practice you're going to get with it. So, I mean, I think that's good.
Yeah, very unique, that bag. As soon as I saw just the texture of that herringbone, completely different. It really pops compared to your traditional herringbone. And, you know, I mean, trying to give you a closer look, you can probably see it right on camera. I'd imagine with the thickness of the pattern on this, that's probably gonna fuzz up a little more. You'd think. I don't know for sure.
Last longer, potentially. I do think it's a little softer.
Yeah. Once it's broken in, it didn't really feel like that at first, but now that they're broken in, it does. All right, so into our designs with the some scoring on them. These are awesome. I give these a solid 3.5 baggers on the bows. Again, the herringbone side is sweet. It's very unique. It really pops. It looks really good, especially that color. And, you know, the skull and stuff looks great. So 3.5 for me. These are just your standard 2 on the design, just because it's, you know, your basic, you know, just the company logo on there. It's got some goats. It's cool, but nothing special.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to give these bows a 4. I mean, I love this bag. The color combination and how it contrasts with each other, I mean, it's just awesome. And this isn't the only design. I looked on their website, and the other designs for the bows are pretty awesome, too. The prime time, yeah, just a standard 2. I mean, it's a good bag. I did choose that one, but there's not really too much to it.
Yeah, just kind of plain, you know.
They probably have different designs for the prime time also. Maybe they have some 4-baggers on the website.
For sure.
Just not this design.
Availability, I haven't been on their website much, but I'd imagine not too much trouble with availability on them.
No, these bags are readily available. You won't have any issue purchasing a set.
Yeah, get on there, check out their website.
So as far as cost, I mean, Goated, they get 3.5-bagger. $80 retail. There's a way to save some money. There's all kinds of 10% discount codes. And actually, funny story with this, and I don't know if this happens to everybody. When I was first on their website looking at these bags, I put them in the cart. And then you know how sometimes like the company will email and go, oh, you left something in your cart. It was the owner of the company emailed and said, hey, you left these in your cart, gave me a special code for 20% off of the 2 bags I was going to purchase. So, I mean, immediately I hopped on there, used that code, it worked, and got the bag. So I don't know how often that happens, but he's watching, and I mean, good guy, smaller company like that, and the owner's looking out for you.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. 3.5 I think is a good score for these. These are really quality bags. You can find herringbone at better prices, but still with the quality of the print on the bow and everything, I think the cost is pretty good on these.
So like we touched on a little bit earlier, Goated Bag Co., I mean, they're an up-and-coming business. They're gaining a lot of popularity. You're starting to see them in the pro circuit. On social media, I know the owner and other members of the company and either their sales rep are very active, which is good. And like I said, you know, the owner did send me that personal email, gave me more of a code. And I've saw multiple times on Facebook where he was solving customer service things, or people were thanking him for giveaways or, donations. And so, I mean, that's good. We like supporting the small companies, right? And the cool thing about these bags is sometimes when you buy a set of bags, they just come in a box or a padded mailer or whatever. These come in like special packaging. You take them out of the package. It's a plastic bag. I'll pull up a picture. I don't have it with me right now. But, I mean, just that little extra added effort, I mean, it says a lot, I do believe.
But yeah, check these guys out. You can find them, their Facebook group at Goated Bag. There's also a fan page, which is Team Goated Bag. Mm-hmm. And then Craig was even telling me that there's reps out there. They do giveaways. You know, you could do have a chance to win. You pay $10. You know, with a few spots, a chance to win the bag. So you can score some of these pretty cheap if you're willing to take a risk on that and see if you can get them win them that way for $10.
Yeah, that Facebook fan group. It's fans of Goated Bag Co. or whatever. They'll do raffles. $10, you can win a set of bags. I mean, you can't beat that.
That's pretty sweet.
So, and then they do have a website. I believe it's just www.goatedbagco.com. But we'll put a link down there for you to make sure.
So break-in, these were just, your traditional toss-offs break-in method. Craig broke these in. Like you said, we, had to work a little harder on the bows just because of the thickness of that herringbone side. But otherwise, pretty standard, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the more you got to play them to break them in, the more familiar you're going to get with the bag, so that's a good thing.
Yep.
Gets us into the speeds. They're both listed as a 5 on the slow side, which we really don't agree with.
Yeah.
I agree that the prime times are 5 on the slow side.
Yeah.
That's your traditional herringbone. It plays like it. The bows, though, they're slow. Bow is slow.
Yeah, the bow is slow.
Right?
For sure.
A 4, maybe?
Dude, when we were first throwing them, I felt like I was throwing Velcro. Honestly, that's the term I kept using. The good thing about that, though, and we'll get into it later with what we were capable of doing with these bags, but I was blocking Marty the whole night with those, and I always struggled to do that. But those bows, man, I could just stop them right in front of that hole.
And it wasn't just us. It was everybody that threw them with us said, man, those bags are slow.
Yeah, we had a couple guys that wouldn't even throw the slow side on them. They were just throwing the fast side because it was too slow. They couldn't get up the board with them.
Mm-hmm. And then the fast sides, the bows rated at a 9. The prime times only rated at a 7, which I really didn't like that too much. I think a fast side should be faster. I feel like if you're going to flip it over to try to clear your path or, take a collect in, you shouldn't have to throw it harder.
No.
And to me, just a little variation between a 5 and a 7 isn't enough. But now, honestly, for this bag, if you know someone that's like a tumble thrower that throws it and it goes end over end, they never know what side the bag's going to land on when it gets on the board. This is a perfect bag for that because with the similar speeds on the top and the bottom, it's not going to just go flying off the back or whatever. They don't have to predict as much which side it's going to land on.
Yeah, and a lot of people we throw with, they do that. They're not consistently hitting the side they want, the kids especially. So I would say it's a good bag for, a beginner kid for sure.
I do, yeah. So materials on these bags, we talked about the herringbone. Obviously the bow, it has that larger, thicker pattern. The prime time's a typical herringbone. The bow, that's your 9-speed, typical game changer fast side. Everybody's familiar with it. That's why it prints so well. It's one of the top 2 fast sides, right? Game changer or Viking fast side, everybody has them. Viper, yeah, sorry. Viking.
Yeah.
It's for the prime time.
Yep.
This is the same fast side that you would find on the Viking, and then I was also comparing it with my Buffalo ambush.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the same slow side on the ambush is the fast side on the prime time. Which another problem with that is it is affected by humidity.
Right.
Like these popular 9-speed fabrics aren't affected by humidity much. Now you only have a 7 on the fast side, and it's humid out. It's going to slow down even more. It's just going to play like a 5-6 at that point.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot of difference there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I would struggle with that a lot. Like when we play outdoor camp and stuff like that, when the humidity and the dew sets in, things really start slowing down. I would struggle for sure.
Yeah, well, the good thing is you got the herringbone. That's going to stay consistent. But still, you want to flip that bag over and clear your path, right?
Right, yeah.
It's going to be difficult with that bag.
Template size, these are just right in your medium template, 5 and about 3/4 of an inch. They're pretty consistent with each other, and they're both, I'd also say middle full. They're not super full, but they're not super floppy either. So.
Yeah, right in the middle, like you said.
Yeah, kind of right in the sweet spot where I like them.
And then fill and flop, like you said, they're really not that floppy. The bow does have a good mix fill, which makes it way more active than the prime time. It's considered a control bag, so that mix fill with the big beads, little beads, all that. You're going to be able to cut it and flop it and do all the good things. At the prime time, I felt mainly just all flat disc fill, and it plays like all flat disc fill. Flattens out when you hit the board and you go straight up.
Get into the backmanship on these. Overall, they're great. Seams are good. Kind of a big opening. But nothing unusual.
It's tight up at the top, but you can see with that black string, it is kind of long, but that's just their style.
We're just starting to see more where the opening's smaller too. So we're kind of looking at that a little more. But overall, I would say great bagmanship. But Craig did find one kind of discrepancy, maybe a quality control issue. You want to talk about?
Yeah, weighing these bags, the bows, we actually had a range of 5 grams in between the 4 bags, which is kind of extreme if you ask me.
It's the most we've seen.
Right,
most we've seen
by far. And I mean, that might just be an anomaly. I don't know, but it happened in between those 4 bags right there. There's a 5-gram difference. That's only complaint on them.
Yep.
That could affect play, though, especially if you don't, because you're trying to collect with your last bag, and it's that one that weighs the less,
Right.
or the heaviest one sitting there, and you're trying to collect it with the lightest weighted one.
Yeah.
That could cause problems.
Well, and you see, these companies coming out with these L bags too, which are similar to the standard ones, and some of them we didn't even see a 5-gram deviation between the L's and the standard. So,
right.
So to see that in a single set of 4 bags, a little concerning. Hopefully, it's a one-off. The bags are still great; they still play well. But if that little bit of weight difference affects you when you're playing different bags, you may struggle with those a little bit.
In full disclosure, I mean, they were still in the specs of the ACL.
Right, yeah.
But there was a difference in between the bags.
Yep.
So we want to talk about the slide up. We'll start with forgiveness. Out of the 2 bags, the prime time is a lot more forgiving than the bow. Flat disc fill, like I said, you hit the board, it's going to run straight.
Yep.
The bow, with that fill, and with this new herringbone, I mean, it was surprisingly forgiving.
It
was very... You could do all the stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of unwanted kicks. Like, things weren't happening that you didn't expect to happen once you started throwing them.
Right. Yeah, I experienced the same. They were pretty consistent with what I was throwing. The only struggle for forgiveness for me was my personal throw and the slow speed. A lot of times I was, just struggling. I'd want to put a blocker up and I would leave it way short, so it took me a while to dial it in, but that was more me than the bag.
But if that's your primary bag, that's something you're going to get used to.
But that's like what that's what we like to talk about. We're not reviewing these for ACL guys. We're reviewing them for guys like us that don't have consistent throws and stuff like that. So that's kind of why we try to talk about what we experience rather than just what the bag is.
Yeah. And it seemed like everybody that threw them with us preferred the bows more than the prime times.
They did, yeah.
Even though they were slow, and everybody's wow, that's slow, but people liked it.
Yeah, like once you kind of dialed in that, to that speed, then they were great.
And to go with that, how slow they were, everybody was throwing them a lot harder, and that probably alleviated that kick, right? The unwanted kicks, maybe.
Yeah, I was definitely throwing them harder, and I still really wasn't running them off the back of the board, man.
Right, so
this is pretty cool.
I enjoyed playing them.
Yep. As far as the speed consistency on these, they're herringbone bags. They're going to be super consistent. I didn't, again, just a personal issue with adjusting to the slower side of the bow. But other than that, once I felt, where I wanted to be with that, I was able to be consistent. We didn't really get to test these in an environment with humidity in it. I'm very curious of how that thicker herringbone is going to react in humidity. You may see a bigger, drop in speed between, your standard herringbone that we see on the prime time.
And then like we touched on earlier, we know that the prime time fast side is going to slow down in humidity just from experience. So that's kind of a bummer. But the game changer fast side, it's
always
play pretty consistent. So
all right. So blocking ability, play a dirty game with these bags. You heard me say it earlier. The bows are the way to go. I mean, you can. It's like throwing Velcro. You can once you get them dialed in, you can stop them anywhere on the board that you want to. I think that's amazing. The prime times, they're great at blocking as well. It's your standard herringbone and stuff. Somebody that's not as good like myself, you're going to be blocking a lot better with the bows, though. Yeah,
a little bit harder to collect afterwards, though, because it's so slow. But with the 9 fast side, I mean, that makes it easier. You just got to be on your target. And, I mean, they're forgiving, so it's just because it's slow. It's going to take it a little bit more to get it moving.
Right.
And then capable shots, like I said earlier, the bow, they consider a control bag with that mixed fill. So all the people that can do all those fancy shots will be able to do those fancy shots with them. Prime time, it's going to be a little bit trickier. The flat disc fill, I mean, we've said this before, those bags are meant to run in the hole. They're going to hit the board, they're going to run flat, and they're going to go straight. The only downfall with it is that if you get some hangers in the hole, the flat fill doesn't really roll over itself and then tend to fall in the hole. So it is a little bit trickier to get that in the hole, but if you're on your target, it's not going to matter. You're going to go right in.
Yeah, I struggled to cut the prime times, whereas the bows, I was able to cut, almost on command. So a little bit difference there. A better player is still going to be able to cut the prime times without issue, so don't read too much into that.
But a good beginner bag, like we were saying earlier,
absolutely.
too, especially with that, flat disc fill.
Yep.
The whole bodiness, I feel that the bow, it had bow nose.
Yeah.
It had a little bit more whole bodiness to me, even with the slow fabric.
Yeah.
I think it was probably the mixed fill. It's going to fall in the hole some more. Being able to control it a little bit better. It was just great. I don't know. I didn't have a problem putting the prime time in, but if I had to give the edge to one of them, I'd give it to bow.
Yeah, I agree 100%. For whatever reason, that was just what we experienced. I mean, as much as we keep saying how slow the bow is, there was even one throw. We'll see if we can find it and put it in the video here, but it was hanging off the back, and I was like, that's not going to go in. There's no way. A guy tried to airmail drag it, completely missed, hit the board, and ended up sliding in anyway. So I was just like, whatever.
So it was playing tricks on us.
Yeah, it was. That was just a one-off. It must have just had the right angle.
Yeah. So an overall rating, the bow, I'm gonna give it a 3-bagger. The prime time, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 bagger. I wasn't a fan of that bag. It had the good things. It ran straight. The disc fill, I understand all that. But the main thing is the fabric differences. There's just not a whole lot of difference there in the speeds of the fabric, which I don't like. And then once you play in humidity, which we do a lot up here, it's going to be affected by that. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion. There's nothing wrong with the bag, but I didn't like it. I'm giving it a 1.5 bagger.
Yeah, I'm very close. To me, the bows, I'm giving them a 3. Once I got that speed figured out, I love that bag. I probably would have went 3.5, but the reason I'm going to score it a little bit lower is if you're taking this bag to like a switch or something like that, it's not one you can just pick up and throw randomly. You got to throw it a little bit before you can, do what you want to with that bag. So I think if you're, mixing bags up, playing at a switch, things like that, you're going to see some struggles there. The prime time standard 2 for me, it's kind of par for the course. Nothing stands out. There's herringbones that I've liked a lot better. Different mix and match of the speed and fast sides. But again, for a beginner bag, it's a great option.
So the big question: will these bags make you better? So the bow. Now I've heard smart cornhole people say before, if you're starting out with cornhole, get a slow bag.
Yeah.
Right? Because a slow bag is going to tell you how flat your bag is, where you're going to get your unwanted kicks. It's going to really help you to throw it and straighten out your throw. The bow will do that for you.
Yeah.
Since it is slow, since it is hole friendly, I mean, it's going to be a good beginner bag to learn your throw. The prime time, again, yes, a good beginner bag, especially for a tumble thrower or a kid. Someone that doesn't understand how to throw a flat bag or a semi-flat bag to land on the slow side every time, that bag isn't going to trouble them much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'll say the bow, I think it's going to make you a better blocker. Like I said, one of our guys that we play with that you'll eventually, get to see is Marty, and he blocks me, and I hate it, and I can never block him. I was blocking him with the bow, so it made me a better blocker that night. The prime time, Craig pretty much covered what you need to know there. So are these bags worth the cost? I say yeah. If they're falling in line with what you're looking for, they absolutely are. They're in the middle of the price range. Again, the bow is such a cool looking bag and stuff. That adds a little bit of value to us. And again, for the, if you're getting a kid to play and stuff, you're probably going to start with, a lower cost bag, not a mid tier, but if you really want to make them happy, it'd probably be worth the cost.
Yeah, I agree. They're both worth the cost. With the discounts too, and then possibly getting a 20% discount.
Yeah.
I don't know how often that happens. It happened for me. It's going to bring that down. I mean, that's a good price point for these bags.
It is.
And just because we scored the one a little bit lower than the other, I mean, that's just our personal opinion, right? You just take what we said about them and, put your own score into it. If it's a bag you want to try, I suggest trying it.
Yeah.
Especially at that cost.
Yeah, and if you watch our other videos, we're big fans of bags under $100. So, anytime you land in that area, we're going to tip our hat a little bit to you.
There is multiple codes to get you 10% off, so we'll list them here for you. Just go on the website when you make your purchase or whatever. It says add discount code. That's where you get it in. Like I said, you can get 10% all day on these bags.
Yep. So go out and find them and get a set.
So we just want to end this with everybody's average is something. If you're going to be average, you may as well be average at cornhole.
See you next time.